Hi, Akash. How are you?
Very well, Andrea. How are you?
I'm good, and I love the background. It seems like a very uh, COVID-19 background, all
That's
indoor.
right. That's right. We work where we can these days.
Good. We have to deal with a canto that is problematic somehow. A canto that is not easy to talk about, perhaps. Canto 28 of the Inferno. And a lot of hesitations about this canto, how to approach it, because of a main reason. One of the characters in the canto, which is Maometto, and the way he is portrayed in this very deep, deep hell, this part of the hell. So, before we start talking, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Akash Kumar. I'm a visiting assistant professor of Italian at Indiana University, Bloomington, and I work on Dante, among other medieval Italian things. And as with you, Andrea, I have an eye to the Mediterranean also.
And I'm very pleased to have you as a partner in this conversation on a problematic canto. I am Andrea Celli, and I am an associate professor at the University of Connecticut. I work on Italian and Mediterranean studies. Anyway, so we are in Canto 28th. We are in the ninth Bolgia. Is the almost the end of Malebolge, and this is the place where are punished, according to what Maometto itself says, sowers of discord and scandal. But in reality, in the canto, we will find other figures that are not immediately related to the idea of schism or discord, no, to schism and scandal. That are more political figures. We will meet Curio, Mosca de Lamberti, Bertrand de Born, and so it's a canto that in reality has a plurality of characters. And
Yeah.
would be a problem to focus only on one of them. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. And this is Dante thinking about division in all of its forms, whether it be religious or political or familial or poetic, and the responsibility of poets and what they can cause, which is how we end the canto. And I think that's announced right at the beginning of the canto, right in this audacious opening. So as you said, we're deep in Malebolge. We have been immersed in the filth of fraud for a long time now, for 10 canti now. And so in some ways, Dante is trying to outdo himself. And then he's admitting that he's coming upon things that he can't even describe, can't put into words. So I thought I would read a little bit of the opening of the canto, and we can approach it that way. So here are the first 2:17 and the first 6 verses. Chi porria mai pur con parole sciolte dicer del sangue e delle piaghe a pieno chi ora vidi per narrar più volte. Ogni lingua per certo veria meno per lo nostro sermone e per la mente canno a tanto comprendere poco seno. So this is Dante saying that language isn't even capable of capturing what he is witnessing, that it is just so horrific, it is so terrible to see. And he's specifically saying that prose can't capture it. Parole sciolte as this technical way of talking about words that are unbound by the structure of poetry. And so, of course, he's privileging his own craft as a poet in saying that. But he's also trying to reinforce this idea of how he's trying to put into words, put into language something that can't be done and that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, and and then the continuation is this simile where he says, imagine if you could put in the same place the result of many historical battles, wars, and it's a sort of apocalypse now image, if you want, and imagine you could put together all the bodies, the victims of the wounds caused by the war. Well, that would not be enough to visualize where what I saw. But the interesting thing to me is that there is a coherence in the choice of the battles he picked up. Apart from one, if I'm not wrong, all of them kind of point at a specific geography. It's south of Italy, and it's a sort of imperial Italy from Guiscardo to the sons of Frederick II, and also the Trojans somehow are part of this Ghibelline geography of. So that is an important aspect. The canto starts with a sort of geography of failure of the empire as a perhaps a unifying entity.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
And that's interesting, Andrea, especially with regard to Dante's imperial leanings, right? So he's Guelph, but he does have certain affinities to empire as a political form to unify, right? And the unity of empire that's so incredibly important to him, in stark contrast to the factionalism that he feels is tearing the Italian peninsula apart. That political ideal of unity is what we're having reinforced here, but also kind of the cost of maintaining that imperial unity, right? Kind of an awareness of the cost of empire, perhaps.
Yes. So there is this strong, it's very important to Dante, and perhaps, as some scholars pointed out, to the medieval culture of Dante, this idea of unity of the world, right? And so Maometto comes into the scene at this point. So he seems not to be condemned for religious reasons, but for the division brought by him. And perhaps we could read the verses that we could define as sort of this scandal verses of the canto, where Maometto himself is speaking. Vedi come storpiato è Maometto, dinanzi a me sen va piangendo a lì, fesso nel volto dal mento al ciuffetto, e tutti gli altri che tu vedi qui seminator di scandalo e di scisma, fuor vivi e però son fessi così, sowers of scandal and schism. So Maometto seems to be here as a sower of schism rather than as a heretic, or rather as a particular as a false prophet, or as other condemnations that are attached to the name of Maometto in the Middle Ages, as the division that he brings to the community somehow.
Right.
And so something important here is the image of the sword, dividing them, no?
Right. And I mean, really kind of the root cause of violence, whether it be political issues, as we saw with the imperial geography at the beginning of the canto, or the founding of religions that leads to religious war, right? And so Dante's really interrogating the cause of conflicts that we have for a variety of reasons. And right, this is problematic, of course, as I'm sure you've come across in the classroom, as have I, that this is a difficult canto to teach, especially if one has Muslim students. This is offensive, and it's particularly graphic, this punishment. I mean, even the language that Dante is using is so incredibly low and base and visceral, and we have obscenities present here that we wouldn't speak in polite company. And so it's difficult. And these are verses, of course, that are used even in the here and now for political reasons, right? So the far right politician, Italian politician Matteo Salvini, declaimed these verses and used them to justify his stance against immigrants and against Muslims in particular, just a few years ago in 2016. So this is by no means a settled issue. And just because a poem is 700 years old, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a certain kind of staying power, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse.
Right. And yet, I mean, there is perhaps no way that we can avoid the scandal, if you want, of the canto, right? For a contemporary reader, we need a lot of intelligence, if you wanted to handle the reading of this canto, not to use it in the wrong way, and we need to contextualize it. And this is, I guess, an effort that everybody does when approaches this canto in a class nowadays. Right. And one of the ways is exactly to see what this canto is about. So the interesting people that are with the Maometto, the other people, the names of these people, why they're there, who they are. I hope you can hear me. I saw appearing. Good. So. I perhaps would like to read another passage from the canto. Is at the very end, almost at the end of the canto, is the last of the characters that we are introduced to, which is a character that is important to Dante. Now, Bertrand de Born, this poet, lord from south of France province. And is a warrior, but at the same time is a poet. And while he was praised by Dante in previous works, here we find him in this very imaginific and horrific scene where he's holding his head, and it reminds me a lot of the Washington Irving, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, a little bit at the very end. And so here there are two verses that to me are very important. One is et eran due in uno and uno in due, which is the verse 125, where two in one and one in two. And then verse 136, io feci il padre e il figlio in sé ribelli. I made the father and son revolt against each other. The canto has this binary thing, like the sword usually cut into this the body of these people in different places, and this is what this division in two of the world seems to be part of the what unify paradoxically all these characters in the canto. The division absolutely. Of father from son, the division of the body, the head from the trunk.
Right, exactly. And so here at the end of the canto, we finally get the word that we have been thinking about all along without knowing it, which is the word contrapasso. So it is Bertrand de Born, the final speaker of the canto, who says, the final verse of the canto, così s'osserva in me lo contrapasso. And that word contrapasso is our final introduction to this idea of the metaphors of these infernal punishments that we've been experiencing for our reading, for the entirety of our reading of the poem. And so we understand this idea of the body that is being metaphorically understood as a space that should remain whole and is not remaining whole. And those people who cause some form of division are going to have their own bodies divided in some way. So I think there's something very powerful about the way that Dante crafts these punishments and gets us to think about how we relate to the world through these metaphors. So the body politic is something that we still think about, or the body of a church or a religious institution. And so, of course, we have that large-scale understanding that's brought down to the scale of an individual human body. And there's something very powerful about that.
Yeah. So even though we are sort of impressed by the importance of the image of Mahomet at the very beginning of the canto, which is somehow predictable, no, in a Christian author to think that we will find something cruel there, but we should not miss what in reality is happening. Maometto is not condemned by Dante for what he believes. For instance, for what he preaches, is not condemned as a false prophet, is not condemned as a magician, is not condemned as many stereotypes of discourse on what nowadays we call Islam in the Middle Ages, right? It is condemned by Dante for this very political idea of division of the unity of the world and the schism. And as for Dante was more important than anything else almost.
And in that regard, Andrea, it's so important, I think, that it's not just Muhammad that's there, but also Ali. So one, showing Dante's awareness of the division within Islam between Sunni and Shia, and two, giving a certain kind of legitimacy to what it is Muhammad founded, which is another religion. And Dante's putting Ali there is a way of perhaps him saying that body that was founded, separate from the one unified religious body, had its own legitimacy and integrity, and it was wrong for that body to be divided as well. So there's something really complicated going on in that respect. And then, of course, there's something even more complicated going on with the presence of Muslims, not just here in Dante's Inferno, but of course also in Limbo, where we have three Muslims that are present, right? Ibn Rushd, Ibn Sina, and Salah ad-Din. And those three Muslims, two of them are philosophers and one of them a military ruler. Those stand for something else. I mean, they're being put there because they are admired by Dante for different reasons. That too is a balancing act that we have to continue to emphasize in thinking about the relationship between Dante and other cultures and other religions.
Right. And perhaps with the Solomonic wisdom of Saladin, we should kind of conclude the reading of this canto, right? So the difficulty and responsibility of reading the Divine Comedy nowadays, but also the creativity that allows us to confront ourselves with this book from the Middle Ages. Okay, Akash, I perhaps we have to stop here. Otherwise, we would, even though we would like perhaps to continue talking for a long time. It was very nice to see you.
We could talk forever, but it's been a pleasure.
See you soon. Take care.
Soon.